Hey, Danielle Fitzpatrick Clark here, host of Minds of the Mighty podcast. And this isn't just your ordinary podcast. This is where we get real with Olympians, pro athletes, celebrities, and other amazing high achievers who've all conquered their fears and challenges and come out successful on the other side. So every week, you're going to get unforgettable conversations. You're going to get information on how to move things forward and powerful, powerful validation for you building your own dreams. So hit that subscribe button, spread the love, and let's go. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Minds of the Mighty podcast. We have an amazing guest, amazing guest. And I have her bio. It's not going to do her justice, but you guys need to listen to the end because then you're going to know just how amazing she is. So we have the beautiful Jenn Drummond here. She is a world record holder, and it's really an interesting story because she had a car accident in 2018 that left her awestruck, and rescue workers couldn't imagine any scenario where she came out of it alive. That's how bad it was, guys. They didn't think she was going to come out of this car accident alive. That's when she realized you don't get to choose when you leave this life, but you can sure choose how you live it. So, this strengthened her awareness to live a more authentic and adventurous way. And we're going to get into that more because this inspired her to climb a mountain for her birthday. Her son raised the stakes by suggesting Mount Everest. So I'm going to stop it there because it gets even more interesting, and I don't want to give all of it at the beginning. So okay, that's a little bit about what you're up to. You're also an author. You have a book coming out. We'll talk about that at the end too. But yeah, Jenn, you're just an incredible woman, and I didn't say this yet, but I'm just going to say it. She has 7 amazing kids, guys. She has 7 kids.
It's a busy household, that I promise.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna start at the beginning because I want this to kind of unfold for people a little bit.
Yeah,
Everything that you did. So you had a car accident. Wow, they didn't think you were gonna make it. Tell us a little bit about that.
right. So I was in the business world. I'm going to give you like way background. I
Yeah.
was in the business world, built up a business, hired myself out of a job, and was the stay-at-home mom. And I thought like this would be the end all be all because I grew up being like, that's your dream is to be able to be a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
And there was a time that I needed to be a stay-at-home mom because everybody was little and was demanding and all the things because there's 7 of them. But as the kids got older, I definitely was going through the motions and not really thriving in life. I need the stimulation of a work environment for my personality. And I kept telling myself, well, I'll just wait until my kids are in college. And once they're in college, then I'll be able to get back to whatever that looks like for me. Well, the universe had a different plan. And it probably gave me whispers along the way, but I didn't hear the whispers. So I had a horrific car crash
Yeah.
that woke me up to life and helped me realize that we do not get to choose when we die,
Yeah.
but we sure get to choose how we live. And every day we have a choice of what that looks like. And putting our lives on hold is benefiting nobody.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh, I love
Yeah.
that you say that. I love that, and I love that you talked about you had whispers along the way.
I did have whispers, like there's little nudges, but I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
finally it was like, okay, girl, we're going to tell you loud and clear. And it was an interesting situation because
Yeah.
I encountered a semi truck. I went
Yeah.
end over end, then twisted sideways, ended up upside down in the median.
Mhm.
When the police got to the accident, they're like, there's no way there's somebody alive.
Yeah.
I was alive. I went to the hospital. I got checked out of the hospital.
Wow.
I went home to my kids the same day. And I mean, I didn't even need stitches at that point,
Yeah.
right? Now, we did find out a few weeks after the accident, I kept spiking a fever
Yeah.
and we couldn't. So I'd go to the hospital and they'd be like, okay, if it comes back, come back. Then I'd go home and I go to the hospital. And I did this a handful of times.
Mhm.
Then finally, the third time, we realized that the seatbelt pressure had ruptured my breast implant.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
so I was going septic because all the stuff that was going on there.
Yeah.
So I can say this now because the accident's behind me. I
Yeah.
got a new lease on life, a
Yeah.
new car, and new boobs from that whole experience. And life couldn't be better, right?
So a lot of new happening for
A
you.
lot of new happening. And like at the same time, life happens in these sequences of events that make them more significant than other things. And
Yeah.
I had to have this surgery. And then a few weeks after that, a girlfriend of mine was
Mhm.
running on a trail that you and I would push a stroller down.
Yeah.
And it was wet out. She slipped, hit a rock, and never came home.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
you have that thing happen, and then you place that next to my thing where it's like, why was I saved? What's my purpose?
Right.
Why was she not saved? Like, how
Right.
does this all work? Like, it was just like 2019 was a very big year for me of why. Like, who am I? What am I here to do? I better start doing that. What does
Yeah.
that look like? In 2020, I was turning 40 to age myself.
Yeah.
And I decided, like, okay, I'm alive. I'm going to climb a mountain to launch this next decade. Like, that's going to be what's going to put me like
Yeah.
into the right frame of mind for my 40s. And so I asked friends that were into mountaineering because I really wasn't that into it. I had climbed the Grand Teton once.
Yeah.
And some friends were like, you should climb a mountain called Ama de Blanc. It's a gorgeous mountain. It's located in Nepal by Everest. So it's in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
Um, it's the Paramount Pictures logo. It means the mother's necklace. I'm like, all these
Yeah.
things. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going to climb this
Yeah.
mountain called Ama de Blanc. Well, then COVID hits,
Yeah.
right? And none of us are climbing anything.
Yeah.
And I am a homeschool teacher with 7 children.
Yeah.
And one of my sons was struggling with his homework one day. And I said to him, like, listen, buddy, we do hard things, like giving him the proverbial prep talk.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, if we do hard things, why are you climbing a mountain called I'm a Dumb Blonde instead of a real mountain like Mount Everest?
Okay, I'm gonna stop there because that's amazing. Good job. Good job.
I'm like,
For your little kid.
Ama de Blanc, not I'm a Dumb Blonde, Ama de Blanc.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I just want to rewind for a second because when you were
Yes.
telling that piece of the story, my whole body was like vibrating. And it was the story about your friend, right? On
Yes.
the treadmill or not on the tread on the trail, on the
Yeah.
trail and falling. And like one that if we were gonna be on, pushing a stroller, then that's a really freak accident. And you having your accident before and just walking away with something that, bursted boobs and you got new boobs and all that stuff. And just and the whispers, right? So the whispers of all of this and then you also said something I thought was really interesting in that you were kind of just going through the motions. And I think there's a lot of people that are doing that right now. So I want to make sure that we really hone in on that point um of that you what you're saying is that you don't get to choose when you leave your life. But you get to choose how you live it. And you had these moments up to this point that are really profound, but you kept pushing it aside. So what do you feel like that looks like for a lot of other people who may be in like I call it the zombification really. We're living like zombies. We're
Right.
not really um but we're still hearing it because you're doing amazing things and big things in the world and you were meant to do those and it took something really big to wake you up into this and so I know that there's other people out here listening to this right now. What would you say to them if they are kind of getting those nudges, those
Yeah. So
whispers?
I think we all kind of suffer from being the boiling frog, right? Like, I mean, I even have to catch myself from doing that at times too, because we're such repetitive creatures,
Yeah.
habit forming creatures, and like things just kind of sneak into our life. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden that's our normal. Like, I mean, I do it sometimes. I noticed the other day, I was going every day to get a coffee.
Yeah.
That used to be a treat. And now
Yeah.
all of a sudden it became an everyday thing. I'm like, how did this happen? And
Yeah.
so I like stopped doing it. And you're like, it's hard to stop, right? Like you're like, wow, you notice the stop. It's not that
Yeah.
it's just it's an awareness that shows up.
Yeah.
And so for anybody that's going through the motions today, take a break.
Yeah.
Just stop. Like, that's the beauty of going on vacation or just going outside and like a long hike for a day or just doing something out of your norm.
Yeah.
Um, because then it allows you to be conscientious of the choice that you're doing. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you take a different way to work, all of a
Mhm.
sudden your brain's not in like the rut that it's always doing. And it's like, oh, look at, I'm looking at things differently, or I'm thinking things differently. And that
Yeah.
trigger of doing that differently allows you to look at all of your life a little bit differently and say, am I choosing these things?
Yeah.
Or have I just gotten into the pattern of these things and maybe that's not exactly what I want to be doing?
Yeah. Ooh.
And when I moved to Park City, not that you don't have this option, but it's a lesson to learn. I
Mhm.
moved to Park City from Michigan in 2015
Mhm.
in January. It was the best time of year to move somewhere,
Yeah.
especially with a personality like mine, because had I moved in the fall, I would have been in all these rooms as the room mom or the soccer coach or all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you move into a town in January, all those roles are filled.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm taking kids to school and I have all this free time for myself that I haven't had since I could remember.
Yeah.
And I got to choose like things I wanted to do each day and blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
it was like one of my happiest times of my life because I was doing life for me instead of for everybody else.
Yeah.
No joke. By the time I got into the fall season of school of 2015,
Yeah.
I did all the things I did before to like fill up my entire schedule. And then
Mhm.
when friends started asking me like, hey, do you want to go do this? Do you want to go do this? I'm like, I can't because I
Yeah.
committed to these other things.
Yeah.
I'm the room mom again in 5 classrooms. I'm this, that, and the other thing. And it's so easy for us to get into our habits
Yeah.
that it's, I think, so empowering to break them and to say no, even if it's for a season.
Yeah.
Just say no. This season, I'm saying no. I know there's like seasons of yeses.
Mhm.
Like step into this season of no.
Yeah.
And then I'll see like what you can do with that free time and try not to fill it up and just be intentional about who am I? What do I want to choose? What do I want to be? How do I
Yeah.
want my life to unfold? And it takes like a disruption to your current pattern.
Yeah. I love that. Be curious.
Yes,
Be
curious.
curious. Yeah.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Okay. So we had disruptions and I'm starting to see like everything leading up to the accident and leading up to 2020 and homeschooling and then your son saying, challenging you. He was challenging you, Mount
Yeah.
Everest. Okay, so let's pick up from there. So we're at
Yeah.
this
So
point
then
where
he's saying Mount Everest.
yep.
And I'm like, finish your homework. We'll look at Everest. So he finishes his homework. We look at Everest. He goes to bed. And then I'm still thinking about Everest. I'm like,
Yeah.
one life, one chance. Like,
Yeah.
why not Everest? If my son thinks Everest is the biggest thing ever,
Yeah.
if I do that, then he knows he can do it too because
Yeah.
he's my son.
Yeah.
And so by the end of the week, I had a coach hired to climb Everest and to train for Ama de Blanc.
Yeah.
Um, and the coach, because I wasn't big into mountaineering,
Yeah.
had me order a book. And the
Mhm.
book was about becoming an uphill athlete because obviously you're hiking uphill to climb Everest. And in the front of the book, there was a story of a lady who had gotten a Guinness World Record for doing some feat in the Alps.
Yeah.
And in a conversation with my coach, I was like, I could have done that. Like, I could suffer. I could have gone across the Alps, got a Guinness World Record, and
Yeah.
my kids would actually think I'm cool because the cool factor with this homeschooling thing, non-existent, like
Yes.
none. Like,
Yep.
I'm not winning at anything here. And he was like, and my coach took that as a challenge. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, we were kind of like blowing it off. I'm like, I'm not growing pumpkins or speed eating hot dogs. So just a heads up.
Yeah.
And the conversation was done. Then a
Yeah.
few weeks later, he calls me back.
Let me just say
Go
one
ahead.
thing. I just want to
Yeah.
point this out, guys, for everyone to listen. Jen has a way of surrounding herself with people that challenge her.
Yes.
I just, it just kind of came in. I'm like, ooh, that's like the third time I've heard that they said that was a challenge. So they set a challenge for you. So beautifully done. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. And I'm a challenge person. Like I
Yeah,
have challenges that I build for myself that I
yeah,
let others participate in. Like we have a parenting challenge coming up and I have an intention challenge. And that's what holds me accountable and gets me going.
yeah.
Um, so anyways, my coach calls me back and he's like, Jen, I have the perfect record for you.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, kind of forgetting the conversation. He's like, I think you should be the first female to climb the 7-second summits. I'm like, okay,
Well,
what are I don't even know what those are. Like, what are you
yeah,
talking about? And he's like,
yeah.
okay, well, listen. He goes, it's only been done by one male.
Hmm.
It's the second highest point on each continent.
Wow.
It's harder than the first 7. So like people in your industry would 100% respect you.
Yeah.
And he goes, and let's think about it. 7 continents, 7 mountains, 7 kids. Sounds like a jackpot.
Yeah. I
I'm
love
like,
that.
kind of does. I haven't really slept in a tent overnight before, but like details,
Yeah.
we'll figure this out.
Yeah.
And I talked to the kids about it. We kind of looked them all up and we said, why not? It's never been done before. If it doesn't get done by me, who cares? It's
Yeah.
the experience and it's exploring and I love to travel. And so I stepped into it. I said, yes.
Yeah. It's her yes season. She had a no
Yes.
season, and this is her yes season. I
Yes,
love it.
season.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So 7 seconds, 7-second summits, not meaning that she's going to climb them in 7 seconds. That would be pretty freaking amazing. That would be its own world record with just one of them. But
Yep.
the second summit, so the second highest summits on all the 7 continents.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So, so you did it.
I did it.
You
Yep.
did
I'm
it.
here.
Yeah.
I did
You're
it.
here. She did
Not like I
it.
did it, but I mean, it took 2.5 years,
2.5 years. Okay.
right? Because mountains have climbing seasons. So you have
Yep.
to climb them during their seasons.
Yep.
There was 1,001 times I wanted to say no and quit and stop and do that.
Yeah.
But there was 1,002 times that I said I would continue.
Yeah.
So only honestly, like one time more than like not. And some of the
Yeah.
mountains took more than one attempt.
Yeah.
And like every one of them has their own little unique story and lesson and thing and stuff. It was a fascinating journey.
I love that. Okay. So what was the training like for those 7 summits? What was that like? The day, I mean, I want to kind of understand the day to day of what
Yeah.
that was
Yeah. Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Okay. So I can get lost in activities fast.
Yeah.
That means if I'm working, I can work from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. and be like 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day, not
Yeah.
think twice about it because I have that personality that just likes to go.
Yeah.
So I have to be very intentional about my calendar.
Hmm.
So every week, what I would do is I'd build my calendar to make sure I had kid activities in there.
Yeah.
Then I'd put all work activities in there. And then I'd give the calendar to my coach and I'd say,
Yeah.
okay, put my fitness activities in here. And
Yeah.
she's like, where? And I said, you need to fit it in. But
Yeah.
if I knew every week, if I put my family first and then my business, then whenever I put the fitness stuff in, I was never like, oh, is this a bad time or should I be
Yeah.
doing something else? Or, like I
Right.
never felt guilty about it because all the other things were checked off.
Yeah.
And my training then looked extremely different than all of my cohorts
Yeah.
training because I had so many more commitments.
Yeah.
So idealistically, you would go on big hikes during the day because you would have big hikes that you would be doing at the mountain time.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that consecutively. I would have to maybe do a couple hours in the morning.
Hmm.
I would drop kids off at school, maybe do some hiking in between there. And then
Hmm.
if they had a sporting event at night, like soccer
Hmm.
game, I
Hmm.
would go to the soccer game and I'd have a 12-inch step on the
Hmm.
sideline. I'd put a little water bottles in a backpack to give me weight. And the
Yeah.
entire soccer game, I'd just be doing step ups
Yeah.
so that I could be working on my
Wow.
fitness and watching my child.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Do you guys see that? Do you guys, I just want, okay, so I wanted to know this to point out that it doesn't matter. I mean, you have 7 kids, you have all these responsibilities, and you're doing a world record and training for it, and it can all be fit in. So it's kind of, I mean, you're really taking out the I can't for a lot of people. Like, I can't do this. I don't have the time. I mean, you're proving that that's all, and that's all in the head. That's all in the mind.
Yeah.
So I love that you're talking about that. Okay, please
And it
continue.
looks
It's amazing.
different.
Yeah,
Like,
and it
I
looks
mean,
different.
it looks different. And like, so my girl, I mean, like people would ask me to go do stuff and I'd wish I could, but I'm
Yeah,
like, I committed to this record. So if
yeah,
you want to hang out, guess what? We're going for a walk. Like you're going for a hike for me. So
yeah,
all my friends are like, that was the best shape I was ever in because anytime we wanted to hang out together, we'd always have to
yeah.
go to a
I
hike.
love that. Oh, see, and then you even fit in that, and then it's just another way you brought your circle around you. Oh my gosh, I love that. So, okay, so this is your training schedule. You're making it work for you. So there's two things to really take away from that, guys. Is like there's all you can always figure it out and make it work for you. If there's something that you really want to go for, then those are two steps. Like get rid of the I can't and make it work for you.
Yep.
I love that. Oh my gosh, you're amazing. See, I told you guys she was amazing. I
We're all
told you she was
amazing. We're all
amazing.
amazing.
We're all amazing. It's just really good
Yes.
to, to have that permission too, for somebody to
Yeah.
show like, hey, I gave myself permission. Now you can too. So training. Wow. Let's move into, you guys can see what she did to prepare. So I'd love to hear, is there one memorable summit? Was there one summit that when you got to the top, you're like, yes, I did
Yeah,
it.
I'll be honest. I would say that, I mean, they all had their own little piece, but
Yeah.
the Everest summit was pretty significant for me.
Yeah.
Which isn't even the 7-second summits. But I did Everest to train for K2 because
Wow.
K2 is a lot harder than Everest, and you don't want K2 to be your first 8,000 meter peak.
Yeah.
And the reason why Everest was so significant was that's the longest I'd ever been away from home.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I have these 7 kids. I've never been away that long, blah, 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 blah. My story was I can't go. They're going to be like, this is terrible. All the noise that
Yeah.
everybody was saying. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I talked to my kids. We had big conversations about it. We went on a big spring break together before I left for Everest. So we had those memories, because
Yeah.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, if I die, I don't know why I thought I was going to die in Everest, but because it's one of the safest mountains I've climbed.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, like, my brain was telling me, like, if I die, like, I'm never going to see him again. We need to make all these moments so special.
Yeah.
I went to the kids' school and I told the teachers, I'm like, hey, listen, I'm going to be gone for 3 to 4 weeks doing the climb
Yeah.
of Everest. I've never been gone this long. My mom's coming to stay. The nanny's here. But can
Yeah.
you just give the kids a little bit more grace
Oh.
during this time? Because I don't know. I don't know how they're going to be.
Yeah.
And the teachers are like, of course, this is, whatever. This is amazing. And
Yeah.
they actually came up with this idea of going into the classrooms
Uh-huh.
and talking about setting your Everest goal and
Mm-hmm.
doing like a little goal setting campaign with the school.
I
So
love
then
that.
all these kids had hikers in the hallway with a little flag that said, here's what my Everest goal is.
Yeah.
And I had a tracking device on me while I climbed Everest.
Yeah.
So in the front of the school, they made this big mountain, and then they had a little hiker. And
Uh-huh.
every day they would move me based on where I was on the mountain. So all the kids could follow along.
Yeah.
I could call from base camp because, believe it or not, there's Zoom or there's Wi-Fi. So I could
Yeah.
Zoom into the classrooms. I could answer questions the kids had, like,
Yeah.
where do you eat? Where do you go to the bathroom? All that kind of stuff that kid asks.
Yeah.
And so my kids were totally supported and loved on because everybody knew what their mom was doing. Everybody cared. Everybody was aware. And so
Mhm.
when I climbed that mountain and I stood on top, it
Yeah.
wasn't me. It was our entire community that was on top of
Yeah.
that mountain. And I just knew, like, all those little kids were watching,
Yeah.
and I wanted them to believe in their dreams, like, so much, that it was so significant for me.
Yeah.
And it really taught me the lesson of, it's fun to wave your flag at the summits,
Yeah.
right? Because you're like, hey, I'm here. I made the flag, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's hard to wave our flags when we're
Mhm.
in hard times, or when we're not at the top of the mountain, or when we have
Yeah.
to go back to base camp because we're not feeling good, or all these different things.
Yeah.
But we need to wave our flag the entire time during our lives,
Yeah.
because it shows the world, here's where I am,
Yeah.
here's what I need, and here's how I can help.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
when you have all of that available, then you can be provided for. And so the school wanted to do a campaign on goal setting. Perfect. I was setting a huge goal. I was a perfect person to do that. So I was able to help them.
Yeah.
They were able to help me to make sure my kids felt seen and loved and cared for while I was gone. And so
Yeah.
that synergy formed because I voiced a concern and a problem that I had.
Mhm.
And then people were able to step up and help.
Yeah. That's what I like to call the triple win. So you found a triple win in all of this, and it really always does start kind of with a challenge or a problem, and then people can come together for the solution. So I love that. I love how you put that in, like, something beyond business. I usually put it in business, but this is like a real life scenario, guys, where, Jen, she voiced it. She asked for support, and not only did she get the support, but she was actually supporting hundreds, if not thousands of people alongside her as well. And so that's huge. That's huge. I love that. Okay, so I can see why that's a significant one for you. Is there any other story, and maybe this is a good story for resilience, when you were climbing one of the mountains, or maybe it was Everest, or maybe it was one of the other ones, where you're just like, I just don't think I can do it. And then, getting through that. How did you do that?
Yeah. So Mount Dictau in Russia. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's the second highest point in Europe.
Yeah.
I went to it in September of 2021, and this was a technical climb. So you had to have technical gear, which meant you wanted to have dexterity. So, for example, I ordered 15 pairs of gloves,
Hmm.
tried on every pair of gloves, mailed back 14 pairs, and kept the one pair
Yeah.
that I took with me. I fly from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam, and then I'm
Hmm.
supposed to go from Amsterdam to Moscow. I get to Amsterdam. I check on my flight. Yep, everything's good. You're going to be fine. It's all going to be on time. It was 6 hours later. So
Yeah.
I go to take a nap in one of their nap rooms, and I come back to board the plane. And like, oh, we're sorry, you can't board the plane. I'm like, what do you mean? I checked on this. Like, they're all this good. They're like, actually, this is a repatriation flight only. If you are a
Oh.
foreigner and you want to enter Russia, you need to enter from London, Istanbul, or Paris. I'm like, well, how did I get booked on this flight then? Like, I don't even
Yeah.
understand. So then I got rerouted through Paris to get to Moscow, and
Uh-huh.
they lost my bags, of
Oh.
course. So
Yeah.
I land in Russia.
Hmm.
My bags are nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
And when you climb mountains, like weather matters, weather
Yeah.
is significant. And so
Yeah.
the guides were at the airport and they're like, hey, listen, we need to go now or we're not going to climb.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, okay, well, my bags aren't here. They're like, yeah, we'll have to go to the rental store and rent gear.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. Um, so I go to the rental store, like I'm not the size of any normal human. Okay, like nothing fits. I rent a jacket that I have to roll up the sleeves. I
Yeah.
have a backpack that I have to wear like a carabiner to hold the straps closed so it doesn't fall off of one shoulder or the other shoulder. I
Yeah.
have boots that like my feet are way too small in, like all the things.
Yeah.
But I told myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just go as far as I can. It will
Mhm.
be beta for when I come back. I'm not going
Yeah.
to summit. That's fine. But at least I'll know the mountain and I'll be way more comfortable the next time I come here.
Yeah.
And so that was my mentality.
Yeah.
By the love of the universe, God, Buddha, whoever you want to like give credit to outside of myself,
Hmm.
is we summit. I have
Yeah.
no clue. I mean, it is the ugliest summit you've ever seen. Like, I'm so glad we didn't have videos. Like, literally, when I'm going down the mountain to come back, I'm like butt scooting in sections because my feet had jabbed into the boots so much that I had a
Hmm.
broken toe. And so
Oh.
it was like, how do I comfortably get down here? No one asks like what you look like when you're climbing a mountain. They're just like, did you summit or not? Right. And
Yeah.
so it was this climb that was so hard. I was
Hmm.
grumpy so often. We got an electrical storm, like all this stuff went
Oh.
wrong.
Yeah.
We summited, we came home, and 6 months later, Russia closes. Like,
Hmm.
had I turned around
Yeah.
and not just been like, okay, it doesn't look like how I thought it was, but this is how it looks like. This is how it is. This is how
Yeah.
it is. And I just had to accept
Yeah.
so many times that this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful I did because it's still like we're not able to go to Russia. I'm not
Hmm.
able to climb that mountain. If I
Yeah.
didn't climb that mountain when I did, it wouldn't have been in the realm of possibility.
Yeah. You wouldn't have hit the world record. You wouldn't have.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it'd still be pending.
yeah. So it's kind of this, and I don't know what it looked like. I'm just gonna say this is what we say in the business world is like sometimes you just got to do it sloppy. You just sometimes you just got to get it done sloppy as long as it gets done. It
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean, I
have
looked
to look
like an
pretty.
orphan. I looked like an orphan climbing this mountain the entire time, and it was like, I mean, I was in Scooby Doo underwear because I didn't have any of my underwear, and the only underwear they had at a store that was somewhat my size was like middle-aged boys or something. I have no idea. And I'm like, I want Scooby Doo underwear right now. I don't even know how to like put this anywhere.
I mean, I hope you wash those and frame those Scooby Doo underwear somewhere because that's pretty funny. That's actually pretty great.
I know. I'm like,
They,
right. It's just crazy when you think about it. Like, I'm climbing the second highest peak in Europe in Scooby Doo underwear. Like, this
yeah,
is my story.
yeah,
Awesome.
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 Yep, it's gonna be part of the intro I put out there. Just like, what does Scooby Doo underwear have to do with climbing the 7-second summits? And so they're
There you
gonna find
go.
out near the end. That's
There
right.
you go.
I love it. Okay, so amazing journey, all these different memories. I mean, I know we could probably go into each of these summits and have like a nice little memory or a funny one or resilience one, but we're going to talk about this next big thing that you're doing. And I'm
Yes,
really excited for you. Congratulations. But guys, she's got a book coming out. A book
I
coming out.
do.
And
I
there's a
do. So
7.
my
There's a 7 in the
there's a
title.
7 because I like have an affinity for 7s. So
Four
I have a book
sevens.
coming out, Quit Proof, 7 strategies to build resilience and achieve your life goals.
Yeah.
I share all stories from the mountain. And then we take when I was writing it, I wrote down bazillions of stories and we started filtering them into different categories.
Yeah.
And we put together little lessons that I took from the mountains that you can apply to your everyday life. And
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that we each have these things inside of us that
Yeah.
we are designed to bring to this world. And this book is going to give you the tools to lean in and to make that happen so that we all benefit.
Yeah.
It's a selfish
Yeah.
play. Okay.
Yeah.
It's selfish. I want you to do you and
Yeah.
not quit and not give up because I want to see you in your magnificence.
I wouldn't call that selfish at all. But I love this. I love that. And I think one of the things that you're really talented at, maybe you don't know this, is being able to take like these challenges and put them into real world scenarios. Because if you can put it into a real world scenario, then that means that, everyone can
Right.
participate, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
my goodness. Okay, so when does it come out and how do people get it?
Yeah. So it's available on bookshelves January 9 of 2024, but we have pre-sales going on right now. So you can go to my website, www.jenndrummond.com, and there's 2 N's in Jen.
Yeah.
And then you can get the link onto Amazon. And if you buy it and give us your receipt, you'll get a whole bunch of freebies on some different resilience exercises and some fun things like that.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so guys, it's www.jenn, Jenn, so 2 N's in Jen, and then Drummond, Drumm, so 2 M's in Drummond, OND.com. So go
Yes.
grab it, and if you guys get the pre-order, then you guys can email the receipt, and then they can get extra
Extra
little
goodies.
freebies, extra
Yes.
goodies. Oh my gosh, I
Extra
love
goodies.
it. Okay, and it comes out
Yeah.
January 9th in stores, yes?
Yep. In stores
Awesome.
January 9.
Oh my goodness. I love this so much. I love this so much that you did this. Amazing. So any last words of wisdom for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can bring it back to where we started.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I want you to take away today is you can repeat after me. I do not get to choose when I die,
Mhm.
but I sure get to choose how I live. And
Yeah.
I want you to remember that whatever you're doing today is a choice. And so step into that and start building a life that represents who you are.
Yeah. Yep. Step into your life. You choose. I love it. Oh my gosh. So amazing.
Yay.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the amazing Jenn Drummond. Guys, go and get her. Go and pre-order her book, like right now. We're gonna do a nice little campaign for her too, so you guys can. But yeah, all about like the resiliency and living the best life. I love this so much. So Jenn, I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
All right, everybody. We'll be back next week with another episode. Bye for now. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Minds of the Mighty podcast. And today we had Jenn Drummond, and she was incredible, wasn't she? So if you guys want to learn more about Jenn, if you guys want to check out her book, which is set to launch January 9th, you guys can go over to the show notes page. And the show notes page is a bit.ly. So it's a bit.ly, bit.ly/MOTM-Jenn, Jenn. So that's the